Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and today we are filming with the Danessa Myricks Beauty Lightwork Volume 5 I Am palette. This video was requested in the comments of my indie haul video. I will leave that linked if you have not seen it. And yeah, we are going to be doing swatches, comparisons, a look, you name it. Here is the palette. So if that sounds good to you, keep on watching. Before we get too far into the video, if you've not already, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. I upload videos twice a week. It is totally free to subscribe, and I would love to have you back again on the channel to talk about all things makeup. Alright, so I've pulled some things to compare here from other indie brands as requested. Not everything in here do I personally have something that I feel like is a dupe for it. I don't own, obviously, every eyeshadow or single ever, but these are the ones that came to mind as I was playing with this palette and testing it out of it. The Resilient and Strong and Brave, this like little blue pan at the top and the split is what I'm wearing on the eyes today. I can't think of a lot that's similar to that, but the Odin's Eye Alva 2 did come to mind when it was like the blues, but then when I held them up, they're really not the same. Like if you look at the blue here in the corner compared to the shimmer in here, the undertone is different. I'll show you in the swatch. And then the dark blue is just totally different as well. So here is Resilient from the Danessa Myricks. That's the one I'm wearing on my eyes today. And then that's next to the shimmer from the Alva, which honestly next to it looks much more teal in comparison. And then the deeper colors, just for reference, the Strong that I have on my eyes today is quite strong. And the deep one called Under the Sea from Odin's Eye, different undertone, different color, totally different texture as well. So I'm not a huge lover of blues personally, so I don't have a lot of blues to compare. The only other one in here that I thought might be kind of close would be like Inspiring in the Danessa Myricks, which is kind of this like grayish purpley silver, and that reminded me of the split pan in the Alva as well, the Blue Star and Jellyfish. But even that one, if you compare those last two there, they are similar vibes. The Odin's Eye one is, I think, sparklier but thinner. There's like more pigment, more opacity to the Danessa Myricks. So those were all the kind of comparisons that I saw in that one that it reminded me of it. Maybe you could get the vibes close, but the undertones and the formulas are definitely quite different. Next up, I'm going to swatch a few in the Danessa Myricks that I just don't think I have anything to compare it to formula wise. This is Invincible. It is the silver in the palette. There are silvers in the Adept Cosmetics Minka palette. I'll go ahead and swatch the silver next to it. As far as color, they're pretty similar. They are not the same though, but the formula is definitely different. The Danessa Myricks is a lot drier, not as creamy. It also doesn't have as much, like the Minka one looks like glitter, whereas the Danessa Myricks is, I don't know, almost more like flakies. Here, let me like spread both of them out so you can see them a little bit next to each other as well. Both beautiful, but not the same. We've also got Radiant in the Danessa Myricks, which is more of a gold, but it shifts from gold to green. I'm not sure if I can capture the shifts for you. That's definitely not my personal expertise, but it does shift from a gold to more of like an old gold green. And then Centered as well, I used in a look recently, and it is a bit of a lighter gold. It does not really shift too much, but it's got a little bit of a red to it on the end, so a gold to a red. I don't really have too much in my collection that I felt like were similar to any of those, and that's partially why I personally picked up the palette, because I'm at a point in my collection where I do try to be mindful of similarities of what I'm buying to other things already in my collection. So I'm not going to buy something if I think it is similar to a lot of things in my collection, as I don't want a ton of repeat shades. Sometimes I will go ahead and do it if I know it's the same shade but the formulas are very different. But this just doesn't have a lot of repeats, I don't think, in my collection. I will go ahead and show you some that I do think are similar though. So when it comes to purple, okay, so we have Healed from the Danessa Myricks. Make sure my hand is not wet from my makeup wipe. Give it an image or an appearance that isn't true. Here is the Danessa Myricks. And then from the Adept Cosmetics Ninhydrin, it's not quite the same. The purple is a bit deeper in the Ninhydrin now that they're swatched right next to each other. We've also got the actual shade from the Ninhydrin palette, Ninhydrin. That one looks much more similar in tone. But I will say the Danessa Myricks has a bit of a shift from purple to pink, whereas the Ninhydrin doesn't really have too much of a shift, and it's more of like a deeper, almost black-based one. And then just to show you the differences in undertones, we'll also swatch the AC 120 from that palette. That one's a bit more iridescent here on the end. Again, this one is the Danessa Myricks. So it just depends. If you're like, girl, they're all similar enough, I can get the vibes, you know, or if you're like, no, they're all technically different, it's up to you. There is also, we'll put in the lineup Unbreakable from the Danessa Myricks. That's more of like a plum in the family. It's not purple, but I don't feel like I have anything that's like a purple shimmer quite like that. And then also in the purple family that we haven't swatched yet is Protected. That is more of an actual iridescent shade here on the end. And yeah, it's like iridescent pinky purpley. It's hard to say because these are like shifty, which is wonderful. But again, none of them are exactly the same in my opinion. I know the person who requested this video specifically wanted comparisons. They mentioned like Odin's Eye. I think maybe perhaps some of the singles in Odin's Eye collection maybe would be closer to these, but I'm not thinking of a lot like palette wise because I have mostly their like collab palettes personally, like from Angelica Nyquist. Other than that, I have like their Christmas palettes, but I'm not having a lot from the palettes come to mind that would be similar. Here are my singles from Cleona. There's not really anything here too that's like too close. The only one that like maybe in that purple family might look similar, I'll have just dug into it, would be this one right here. It's more of like a blurple though, I feel. And that one is called Crown Glass. And then like the iridescent purple. Yeah, see, that doesn't look anything like the Danessa Myricks one. That's Tessera. Just really doesn't look anything like it. I'll show you some of the greens I have when I get to those in this palette, but they're too different for me to say that they're like, oh, exactly the same dupes. Okay, let's do the greens next since we were talking about that. So from Danessa Myricks, we have Evolving. That's the one that's more of your like iridescent green. We have Abundant. That one is more of a bright in your face green, and that one is the one that shifts. It's got kind of like a blue to a green. And then we've got Enough, which is kind of like a darker green shimmer. So in the Ninhydrin, we've got ACI 25. Not exactly like them in formula or in tone, but there it is, just for comparison. And then from Cleona, I'm going to swatch a couple for you guys. I'm going to swatch Patina and put that, let's see, on top just to show you. It's more of like an olivey yellowy green, not quite the same. And then I'm also going to swatch for you Embroidery from Cleona. over here. That one looks like it matches more with the family, but also it's just not 100% the same on the end there. Again, it just depends if you want them to be like, hey, I'm getting the vibes of it. I don't want to spend what Danessa Myricks costs. I feel like you could probably go in your collection and get something to get the vibes of it, but I'm not seeing a whole lot that matches both the undertones, the color, and the formula exactly in these other indie brands and palettes and singles that I personally own. Now there is one I did in my look yesterday that I thought, oh, I have something that's very similar to that. The shade Fierce in the Danessa Myricks palette is this beautiful like black based green to red to orange shade, and I immediately thought of, from Adept Cosmetics, the House of L, the shade Zorel, which is one of my favorite multi-chromes of all time. The formula, touching it, feels completely different, I will say. Ooh, it is slightly different, but again, it's similar vibes. But you can't get this one from Adept, so maybe if you missed it, this would be the way for you to get it close. See how the Danessa Myricks is like more opaque, more opacity. The Adept ones are a lot sparkly. They're like shimmerier. I know that's not a word. But they have more like mica in them, but they're more like toppery almost. They're different. They are different. The Danessa Myricks one feels like cream. When I'm spreading it with my hand, it feels creamy. Whereas the Adept ones are more like putty squishy. And then there's a couple in the Danessa that I'll just go ahead and swatch that I also didn't find any dupes for. Loved is this pink to green one here on the end. Really pretty. I have not used all of these shades yet. We've also got Unstoppable, which is this kind of like peachy color right here. But it's got Reflect in it to make it look a little like, I don't know, brownier. And then finally, we've got Powerful, which is a very deep plum shade. It's like pink, plum, purple, shiftiness. My goodness, how will I ever get all of this off of my hand? So yeah, those are some swatches, my thoughts about comparisons. Did I miss something that could be close to them? Maybe. But I'm telling you, feeling the Adept, the Odin's Eye, the Cleona, even if we were to go into other brands like Sugar Drizzle, I looked at some of those. Any other indie brands I can think of that have that squishy putty formula, like Unearthly did at some point. I'm not seeing anything that's like so similar in formula or even like in the undertones of the colors personally. So I hope that was helpful for you. We're gonna go ahead and get into this look that I did with the palette next. So I wanted to show you, at least with a few shades, how the application works. I did already do the rest of my makeup, my base, and I've got a few mattes that I've put down from a different palette, as well as the Ulta Beauty Glitter Primer. I did a look yesterday off camera using primarily the Fierce shade, this one right here, as well as Centered, and I noticed a lot of fallout even though there wasn't like creasing. So I'm trying it today with the glitter primer to see how it goes, if that is gonna help with the fallout, because some of these, like this blue shade, jewel tones, like to get fallout on such a dark shade on your complexion, it's game over if you're like me and you do your complexion primarily first. So that means if a glitter primer doesn't work to eliminate the fallout, you pretty much have to do the eyes first. But I'm using this shade Strong here and I'm not getting any fallout with the primer, so maybe the glitter primer is just the way it has to be for this particular formula. I still thought that the shades were very bold and didn't crease at all. I didn't have any issues with that without a glitter primer. It was just the fallout. Let's see what I want to do. I think I'm going to go with Resilient. This one up here on the inner portion of the lid, just to keep it kind of like monochromatic blue. I will say too, when I used the brush yesterday in the look with the other shades I mentioned, well, that's really pretty. The brush wasn't picking up the shadows that well, and I personally just don't really like to use my finger for eyeshadow. But since I did the glitter primer with this same brush and it's got a little bit of the primer on it, the brush is a little tacky, and that definitely seems to be helping with picking up the shadow on the brush. It's way easier today than it was when I did that other look. That's pretty okay. And then I am going to go with a different brush just because I want to get precise on the corner. I'm going to go with Brave right here, which is a little bit flakier. They give you this sheet that shows you the formula. So the first one that I used was one of their silk press shifters. The second one was a Heavenly Halo. So some of them are more like pressed flakies. There's also fusion flakes and suede shimmers, as well as cushion chromes and molten metals. There's a lot of different formulas in here. So I'm taking this Ace Beauté P4 brush and trying to pick up a little bit of Brave, this kind of like flaky looking one. Just want enough for the inner corner here. Just gonna press that in. Again, the flakies are a little bit harder to pick up with the brush, but that's kind of expected. I feel like all flakies are kind of harder to pick up on brushes like this. But that is pretty. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and finesse the mattes on the outer corner here. They got lost a little bit. Add some eyeliner, some mascara, lip. I'll be back to show you the final look here. And here is the final look. What do we think? I really like it. Who am I? Loving blue shadow more and more every day. I don't know, but the glitter primer, that absolutely made it so that there was no fallout. The only few specks I have of fallout are from the flakies I put in the inner corner, and I did not put glitter primer there, so you could always put a little bit of glitter primer in the inner corner too with those flakies, and I think you would be good to go. Thanks so much if you made it all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed the comparisons, the swatches, the look, and let me know what you want to see me try next. Is there anything from my indie video of new products you want to see? I've got more products coming that I have ordered. Yeah, let me know. Always happy to film requests. If you made it all the way to the end, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye!